Photos are an important part of our lives. Holiday memories, how cute your pet is, the beauty of your partner. It can all be captured in a photo. Still, sometimes it's better not to look too much into the details, because who knows, you might come across something that you previously overlooked. Something that has enormous consequences. John Baker also experienced this. He saw something in a photo of his wife that made him want to divorce her immediately. Before we start, can we get this video to 1,000 likes? Please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. John and Baker Clove had been married for 5 years and lived in San Francisco. The American couple had a special relationship. John traveled the world for work and was sometimes away from home for weeks, while Clove spent her time volunteering at various charities in the city. Because Clove was home alone so often, she was in charge of the household. When John was home for a week, he had to obey his wife's house rules. This had caused tensions at first, but eventually John had resigned himself to it. He had long been happy to have such a beautiful wife to come home to. The husband, John, had a good job as a sales representative for a technology company. This company had customers and partners all over the world, so John was often away from home for work for weeks. He always flew first class and slept in the most beautiful hotel rooms. His life consisted of luxury. Still, John loved being home with the love of his life, Clove. When John was on a business trip, the couple often spoke on the phone. Clove was a stunning, popular woman with a huge circle of acquaintances. Because of her large network, she was a welcome guest at fundraisers and other events. In the past, Clove had earned her money as a model. Clove had met her future husband John while working. She modeled at a world-famous car show, where she was hired by the car brand to promote their latest model. Thousands of men were walking. But her eye fell on John as soon as he entered the room. It was love at first sight for her. For John, it was different. That day, John was looking for a new car with his then-girlfriend, Heather. The couple had driven the same sedan for years, but now that John had started earning more money, there was room to purchase a new car. The day had turned out completely differently than the couple had expected. The car show was very busy. The couple had been walking around for a few hours, but had not yet come across their dream car. John had just been promoted at work and was very happy. He'd just gone to the bathroom and was walking back to Heather when he saw something that seemed to freeze the world around him. Heather turned out not to be who he thought she was. Right in front of him, a strange man in a suit approached Heather and kissed her. Heather was shocked when John confronted them about the situation. The other man seemed just as surprised and outraged as John. "Who the hell are you?" he asked John. "I can ask the same of you," John responded. It turned out Heather had been in a relationship with the man she met at this fair for a year. The other man hadn't known about John any more than he had about the man. They had both been fooled. Neither of the men knew that their girlfriend was in a relationship with someone else. This was quite a downer for John. Heather came to collect her things the next day. John had less trouble with it than he had expected. He was especially looking forward to calling Clove again. He did this right after she left the house. Again, the hours flew by. The two couldn't stop talking. After a few weeks on the phone, John took the plunge and asked Clove out to dinner. He was over Heather by now, and his eyes were on the gorgeous model who had comforted him at the motor show. She said yes. He took her to one of the most luxurious restaurants in town, where they talked and laughed until the late hours over an expensive bottle of wine. Afterwards, they took a taxi to John's apartment, where they continued their evening. One date became two became more. Clove, unlike John's ex, seemed trustworthy. It wasn't long before the couple decided to move in together. They had been together for a year now, and the future smiled upon them. It was a rare occurrence for them to sleep in their own house at this point, so a logical next step was to officially move in together. One evening, after they went to the movies together, John decided to make his condition known to Clove. He only hoped she would take it the right way, because he didn't mean any wrong with it. "I want to ask you something," John began. "I would like to make a request before we choose to live together." Clove had no idea what John would ask her, but she was willing to do anything to make him happy. She was looking forward to moving in with her love. Still, John's condition came as quite a shock to the professional model. "My request is," said John, holding his lover's hand. "I would like you to stop doing nude photography." Chloe looked at him with a smile. She had already expected this to be the condition. John was very happy that she accepted his condition and couldn't wait to move in with his love. Soon after, the two started looking for a house and found a beautiful spot in San Francisco. The two hosted an extravagant wedding, attended by all their friends and family. The two walked down the aisle toward the altar, where their love would be sealed forever by the waiting priest. They would know not only prosperity, but also adversity in their marriage. The couple's lives calmed down in the years that followed, until John made a shocking discovery. In the years following the wedding, a lot changed in the couple's life. John took on a new role as a sales representative for the company he worked for, while Chloe's career also changed a lot. She noticed that as she got older, she was offered fewer jobs. As a result, Chloe became more and more of a housewife, while John was increasingly away from home. Chloe started working for charities and became a welcome guest at fundraisers and events. The company John worked for was very conscious of his value, so he was now making enough for two. The two had everything right, but their relationship still started to show cracks. Her husband traveled a lot and earned the money, while she was at home a lot and bored to death. Here and there, Chloe was offered a modeling job, but this was not enough. Chloe desperately needed more variety and excitement in her life. John was also not completely satisfied with the current situation. Although he now held a very important position and earned a lot of money, there was something missing in his life. He began to realize more and more that something was Chloe. He was sometimes away from home for a long time, so it took weeks before he saw the love of his life again. The couple had just called for half an hour while John was boarding his next flight. Chloe had been on the way home during the phone call and now plopped down on the couch. Suddenly, she received a message from her husband, who had to be on the plane by now. "Would you please send me a picture of yourself? I miss you terribly and it pains me not to see you these next few weeks. Please," John typed. He then put his phone on airplane mode and fastened his seatbelt carefully. The plane started to taxi and prepared to take off. He had no idea what awaited him. Chloe read the message with a frown on her face, a picture of herself. John knew she didn't like that, right? She was a professional model. She saw herself often enough already. She wanted to keep work and private life separate. Chloe intended to decline the request. Then she realized how John must be feeling. Lonely and alone in a foreign land, far from home. The least she could do to satisfy him was to send a photo. She posed for a selfie, took a few, chose the best one, and sent it to her husband, accompanied by a heart emoji. She had only forgotten one detail. After she sent the photo, Chloe took another good look at it. She looked good and couldn't believe that she wasn't being offered more modeling jobs. Oh no! She yelled out loud, starting at her phone in the living room. She'd noticed something she knew would anger John. Her fingers quickly tapped the keyboard of her cell phone until the screen suddenly went black. Her battery had died. John was going to land and see the photograph. Once landed, John took his phone off airplane mode and a big smile appeared on his face. He had one new message from the love of his life. He opened the messaging app and saw the beautiful photo of his beautiful wife. Deeply in love, John stared at the screen. Her beautiful smile, her beautiful eyes, her shiny hair. Suddenly, John's heart skipped a beat. What was that? His heart began to pound in his throat. He had noticed something in the photo that had really shocked him. What did this mean? John trembled with rage as he dialed his wife's number for the fourth time. She didn't answer again. His lawyer answered in the usual friendly tone. John explained the situation to him and concluded his story with a request. "I want you to get the divorce papers in order," he said. The lawyer repeated John's words in astonishment. "Are you sure about this?" he asked John. "Talk to her first. Who knows? Maybe she'll have an explanation." John took a few deep breaths at the advice of his lawyer and decided to call Chloe again. John was straight to the point. "Where the hell is your wedding ring?" Chloe had already expected this to catch his eye. He had spent so much money and gone to such lengths to get this wedding ring on her finger. He had noticed this detail immediately. The photo indeed showed that Chloe was not wearing her wedding ring. One dark thought ran through John's head. Did she cheat on him when he was on a business trip? Chloe decided to tell her husband the truth. Chloe told John that she did something that day that he wouldn't like. She had been sitting at home and very bored. There was no volunteering to do that day, no events to attend, and she had already completed all the household chores. She called an acquaintance for an appointment and then went out. Along the way, Chloe knew she was doing something her husband didn't want her to do, but she was done with the boredom. Chloe booked a nude photo shoot with a professional photographer. There was nothing sexual about this shoot. It was purely artistic. The shoot was very respectful and beautiful. Chloe felt attractive again, something she had felt a lot less in these past years. She might not be able to make ends meet as a model, but she still had it in her. Once home, John had asked her for a photo and sent the selfie. John was very relieved that his wife hadn't cheated on him. He immediately told her that he didn't mind that she had such a photo shoot. John desperately wanted his girlfriend to feel attractive and beautiful. He could well imagine that such a life as a housewife was boring. The two had a good chat about their wishes and dreams. John contacted his boss and indicated that he no longer wanted to be away from home so often. He asked if there was no position in San Francisco. This would mean that he could be with his wife every day again. Much to his relief, his boss understood him completely, and it got even better. Surprise! John's boss told him a management position had become vacant in San Francisco. He had wanted to offer it to John the moment he returned from his current business trip. Now that John called with this request, he couldn't keep it to himself any longer. John accepted the offer, and they agreed to discuss the details in the office the following week. So John got a job in San Francisco, and Chloe? Both the sneaky photo shoot and the fact that she now had her husband close to her again led to Chloe now being a lot more confident in life. And this she radiated. Suddenly, she was offered job after job, and Chloe's career as a model took off. The two agreed that Chloe would not take too many jobs abroad. They didn't want history to repeat itself, of course.